As I noted in the TIFF reaction video, a lot of people who did tweets were still restricted. These were sort of the film writers, film editors, film critics. Again, a few major ones, but a lot of minor ones. But they were still seemingly very careful about what they could say and couldn't say about Dune. But some people were not restricted, and they gave some very direct answers about what will happen and what will not happen. I'll cover a very interesting tweet by a fellow YouTuber. Now, I want to be careful. I really can't recommend her work fully. I've only watched a few videos. She seems pretty solid, and she seems to know Dune very well. But again, we've been down that road before where people seem to know Dune, but then they really don't. It's unclear. And some of the stuff that is being revealed is pretty amazing and incredible. So I'm still doubtful about some things, but here we go. So 3 major questions were answered, and they'll probably be a little disappointing, but here we go. Does Feyd show up? No. Does the Emperor show up? No. Does Ur-Yolan show up? No. So these have been questions a lot of fans were speculating about. Are we going to get any cameos by the other characters? I mean, I would have thought at least Ur-Yolan would have made a cameo, but apparently, no. None of those major characters will appear at all. They don't even get a voiceover, a cameo, nothing. The tweet was even categorical that they're not even going to get mentioned. And I find that very doubtful. I'm wondering, like, how in the world could you get around even just mentioning Feyd? He's so critical to the Baron's conspiracy, and he's grooming him to take over Arrakis. So that didn't quite make sense. So on that one, I'm a little bit doubtful. And I myself still hold on to the theory, rumor, that Feyd will at least appear a little bit, maybe in disguise, but who knows? But again, we double checked the IMDb. Yeah, I noticed it's a while ago, but nobody's done really videos on this. But there's no Emperor, and an Emperor showed up for the Lynch version, and an Emperor showed up for the sci-fi version. So that was pretty puzzling. Now, technically, the Emperor doesn't have to show up until the end of the story, so that makes sense. But Ur-Yolan does sort of come in the story in the book in a weird way through the journal entries. So yeah, and Feyd does show up. He does see the Baron. It's actually very early, and it's actually a big dialogue. And apparently, Denis has cut that entirely. So this is being structured very differently from the book than you might expect. So he's maintaining a lot of fidelity, but in many big places, he is completely doing his own thing. This will keep the debate about Lynch versus Denis going for quite a while, because a lot of people keep honing in on that. Well, Lynch was very unfaithful to a lot of major details. That's true, but he was actually faithful to a lot of other details, including the main plot. I mean, that may have been one of the problems with the Lynch version. It's trying to be too close to the sequencing of the plot in the book. Yes, he does get rid of various things too, and he condensed a whole lot, but we're getting huge parts of the dialogue from the book in the Lynch version, and apparently he's doing the same thing, but just differently. He's condensing episodes, he's eliminating episode, or he's expanding material that was not really in the book. So that's interesting, but there we have it. If you were counting on Feyd, Ur-Yolan, or the Emperor to appear, that ain't happening. And she goes very far, saying they're not even getting any mentions, which I think, like, Well, we do know the Emperor was mentioned, because the specific question was, is Corino mentioned? And she's saying no Corino. So it's very, very vague. So I'm assuming, they talk about the Emperor and the Princess, but we don't see who they are. No real physical description, and apparently nothing visual either. So, but again, depends on memory. Maybe we did get something. Maybe it was just extremely quick. So at the very least, if they do appear, it's like for just seconds, and they don't really play any major role in the stories. We're not getting really any of these roles at all. But I guess that's good for Feyd, because a lot of fans, I've noticed, really have their own idea of who Feyd should be. And if Denis wants to start doing Dune next fall, for these characters, he's probably going to have to start getting to know people in the spring, and they'll be given offers by the end of the spring to start beginning work on the summer, right? Because they do rehearsals with the script. And he says he's working on the script right now, and he's going to continue working on the script, but there's still no green light. So there's nothing official on the sequel yet. In terms of those major characters, they do not appear. They're not being played by anybody. So again, it's going to be wide open to who they pick. So if fans want to try to influence that decision or give their own ideas of who would be the best people for those roles, well, apparently the floodgates are open. So there we are. So no Feyd, no Corino, and no Ur-Yolan. So make of that what you will, positive or negative developments with Denis Villeneuve's adaptation of Dune. Thank you for listening.